And if I could just follow up on, from last meeting, there was discussion about potentially pursuing or proposal to pursue a baseline groundwater study from the USGS and the Department of Community and Economic Development. As you, I think, all saw by now, I did provide a little more information, had some conversations with hydrologists at the USGS and a conversation with DCED, and got a little bit more information from some of the other counties who have undertaken this project and provided that with you. So I'm just, if you want to have a follow-up discussion or continue to look at the information. And I also shared with you an email that just came the other day from Ed Boito at DEP, wherein they have created and they are announcing a new grant initiative to distribute the $12.6 million in fines that they assessed on Sunoco for across the Mariner East line. They are redistributing those funds, those fine proceeds, to within the 85 municipalities that are in the corridor of the Mariner East, which includes 5 or 6 municipalities in Lebanon County. And eligible recipients are municipalities, nonprofits, watershed associations, conservation districts. Might be missing one there, but essentially I'd forwarded that on to you. So that's just an awareness thing. There's quite a bit of money there. If you just take the 85 municipalities and do some simple arithmetic division on the $12.5 million, that's $150,000 per entity. If it's not that it's going to be distributed that way, but just putting into perspective how much funding is there, and so that would be a pretty good opportunity for some of those organizations that have projects in mind or maybe haven't had the funds to do something, and this came along. So it opens up on May 7th. Not all of the details on the grant are available yet, but they will be May 7th. I had emailed with Ed Boito a little bit yesterday about that.
I asked for some more time for study and to get more reaction from other folks that would be in a position to comment on this grant. And so I'm prepared to make a motion that we would pursue this grant, though I feel that it's unlikely that we'll be successful in being awarded. I don't want to stand in the way of Commissioner Litz's efforts to, as she said, to take this under her work of her folks, and also that we'd have limited county participation in terms of we would just be the pass-through for the money if awarded, and we would handle reimbursement if there was a need to do that. But so under those conditions, I would move that we go forward and that Commissioner Litz and
can I have clarification? Is that for both grants?
No, this is just the USGS, the one that.
The Sunoco Mariner East money as well?
Well, that one's not really open yet.
Well, but when it comes open, so we can match maybe with that.
I haven't even looked at that one yet, so that one I'm just trying to deal with the one that we talked about that I asked for more time on.
All right, well, I'll second that.
I would like to clarify the motion before I would feel comfortable voting on it. I want it stipulated that as a Board of Commissioners, we're approving moving ahead with applying for this grant, but there be no county money or personnel attributed or invested in this effort.
Well, there would have to be some personnel to get the information from.
To get the information from.
Right, if they request GIS database, for instance, that would have to be provided. There are certain things that the county would have to provide.
I'm talking about writing the grant. I do not want to.
Well, no, they would write the grant.
Who's they?
It was in the paperwork that there are 2 entities involved, and I can't remember the name. Wait, I can find it, I just have to look. But the one gentleman would write the grant under his auspices. Was it Chaplin or his boss said they would write the grant, and then USGS would actually perform the data gathering.
Okay, well then I would like the motion to stipulate who's going to write the grant.
Yeah, it's
Because
in
I-
here, we can get that exact.
I want that exact, because I don't want our planning department or our conservation district burdened with that, because Lynette Geisinger has just resigned. A lot of people don't know that, but she's leaving. So certainly, the conservation district is burdened with the pipeline already, and our planning department has other issues on the table. So I don't want to see our folks burdened with this effort. You know, I'm willing to say, you know, sign off on it and give approval to proceed with it, but I don't want us financially or from a labor standpoint, a personnel standpoint, burdened with this effort.
Again, this county would not be writing the grant, but they would have to provide information that only the county has, and that would be available no matter what, right to know whatever. So, I mean, it's not that, that's our job, is to provide that data. They would not be writing the grant.
May I make an attempt at a clarification? A little bit,
Sure.
to maybe say what
We need your help,
what
Jamie.
will be done rather than what won't be done. So what, it sounds to me as though the motion would provide for the county being the pass-through, so therefore the award, if the grant is awarded, it would be awarded to the county, which I think DCED would require. It's their single application. So the county would be the awarded entity. Therefore, the county would have to draw down the funds to pay the bills that go along with the sampling of the grant. Letter of support, is that something that you'd be willing to provide with it? That's,
I would
you know.
be, yeah.
Okay, so we can include a letter of support, and then lastly, Commissioner Litz is referring to the data, so if there's no question there's data that's only.
If it's readily available,
That's only
that's fine.
contained within,
Right.
for example, GIS, so that sort of thing would be, and no matter who the applicant would be then. So,
Okay.
those three things be provided.
My only other thought is understanding that the feedback we got was that nearly half of this weight of this grant application would be pretty much against us because we don't have any wells, active wells, drilling going on in our county, so that the weight, you know, the advantages for the northern tier where all the Marcellus Shale drilling is going on. So that's one part of this. So, but because Commissioner Litz has made such an impassioned, effort to get this underway, and I'm though reluctant because I don't think we will be successful. I don't want to stand in the way of those efforts. I just wanted to ask if this is important enough to you, would you be willing to raise taxes to have this done? If
No, this is
let me
not
finish my
taxes.
question. This is where do you think the tax? This is tax money.
This is not our local tax base that we would be raising.
No, my question is, if you'd let me finish, if we are unsuccessful in getting this grant, but this effort is so important, and you mentioned to me the other day, must we wait till someone dies from a well contamination? Are you willing to vote to raise taxes to provide the money for getting this done if we don't get the grant?
That sounds more political than a real question. We have a second source that will be available through the DEP and the Sunoco $12 million. We can also apply for that simultaneously. One and or both of those can go together to fund this grant.
I'd rather.
You would accuse someone of making a political statement when you did, in fact, as Commissioner Phillips indicated, sat right here and said, well, I guess we'll have to wait until someone dies. Now, that's a real political statement, Commissioner Litz. I just want you to be able to recognize it.
Well, and I'd further ask, isn't your answer more political than my question? I'm really asking it because if it's important enough, the grant money is tax money after all anyway. So to me, it's if this is important enough to use tax money for, wouldn't we, I'm just asking that, so.
I don't see a need to raise taxes.
I figured that. Okay, so it's not important enough.
She never
I didn't
does,
say
remember?
that.
Well, what do you say?
I said there are 2 sources of funding available, and we should pursue those.
And if
And
those are
that's the end
exhaust-
of my statement.
If that money would only benefit those municipalities, and then nothing happens here, and you gotta raise taxes to pay for this,
No, we're not raising taxes, Martin.
we're not gonna raise taxes.
No, we're not.
You know,
Yeah, you are, what Commissioner Litz is saying, and I think she would like to clarify, is that this was a do-or-die effort on her part that she wanted the other 2 commissioners to buy into, but it's not important enough to her to raise taxes. That's what she's saying.
okay.
Let me back up just a second.
Do not
There-
put words in my mouth, sir.
That's
Thank you.
what you're saying.
You just said that.
You just said it. I just reiterated it.
The first initiative is the Baseline Groundwater Study. There are funds available through the USGS to do a study like that. It's been done in 7 counties already in the northern part up along the New York border, and others are applying. There's, I think, another 7 or 8 applying.
And they do 2 a year, is that?
Yeah, they estimate about 2 a year that they grant. That's a county-wide sample of wells geographically across the county, every corner, they actually lay a grid work over the county, and they'll take a well or 2 in each of the blocks of the grid. So that's an across the county well sample for a baseline water, to see what
And
the
that's
well
all
water.
over the county.
That would be all over the county. That's the first one. That's the one that was brought up 2 weeks ago, and again today, that they're moving on right now to apply for under certain.
And who's this groundwater study? Who's paying for that? Where's the money coming from?
Well, the USGS has $250,000 grants, but there's a required 15% cash match from the applicant, and the studies typically have cost between $300,000 and $350,000 in the counties that have already done them. Right.
I'd like to clarify that I believe this is an attempt to deflect the conversation from something that Commissioner Phillips said to a fictitious other avenue. And so it's unfair, and I think it's rather transparent.
To what are you referring? Martin's comments?
No, sir.
Well, whatever you said
No,
needs
but
clarification. If you have a motion on the floor, Martin,
Okay?
all right, which I assume when the motion is actually in black and white, we can take a look at it, but we can vote on it today based on our understanding.
Yeah, I think what my intention is to draft it and put it before you, or when it's in the minutes, is that it will specify what will be done by the county and just to that extent, those 3 things, as I saw: letter of support, pass through for the funds, and any data that's readily available.
And not funds. The match, does that have to be a cash match? And if it does, where is that
15%
coming
has to
from?
be a cash match.
So where would that come from?
We discussed all that previously, that we would seek, we're kind of short on time now, but we'll still seek
I
matches.
just wanted to hear you say that. Yep.
I'll call the question.
All right.
And part of that may be to apply for that from the
All right.
DCED or
With the
whoever.
motion on the floor and
DEP.
significant discussion, all those in favor of approving the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I
Anything
have.
else?
No.
Thank you,
Yeah.
gentlemen.